Hey, hello, Bobby Holland is here, and today we are talking about the latest news of the business, marketing, and tech world that happened within the last 1 week. Let's get started. So today on our agenda, several pretty interesting topics. First of all, the Web Summit, the biggest tech conference that happens every single year in the Lisbon, just recently ended, and we have a bunch of different interesting things to share from there. Secondly, there is something pretty interesting happening with the venture capitalist market on the pet projects, especially including the fact that the Generation Z people starting buying more and more pets, starting giving these pets, etc. And finally, we will talk about the most interesting things happening around the world of venture capitals as well. So if you walk by any public park these days, you will see just a huge explosion of people who become the pet owners. Obviously, this was led by the pandemics, by the process when people were all alone and they needed to get some friends. And especially this is pretty remarkable for the Generation Z owners, because that's exactly those people who become the pet owners nowadays. The children grew up and currently they are experiencing their new process of working with and collaborating with pets. It's a little bit too early to have children just yet, but they already have some pets, and that's exactly the market that we are working with right now. And there are lots of different projects and lots of different interesting startups that aim specifically at the pet owners, and within the last 1.5 years this market began to grow dramatically, especially because of the new pet owners. There are several pretty interesting venture capitals that happened recently in the basis of these things happening, and the simplest example is the company called Nemi, who raised several $1 million within the last investment round just a couple of weeks ago. The representative of DN Capital, Guy Ward Thomas, is saying that there's a huge amount of different startups which are aimed to be called themselves neo-pet ownership projects, and basically they help pet owners spend their time a little bit easier with their pets and make this process even more enjoyable and interesting for both of them. And that's exactly what's happening right now. This market growth, there are lots of marketing investments running around this specific type of business, and if you're aiming at taking a look at such a startup, think about it with maybe from the perspective of venture capitalism, or maybe from the perspective of launching your own product. Web Summit, the biggest tech conference that's taken its place in Lisbon for almost 5 years, was happening this year again in the Altis Arena. People obviously got really bored without having any conferences, etc. during the pandemic period, and now the rebirth of conferences brings absolutely enormous amounts of people every single day to different events. And Web Summit beat almost every single record of the records of people they had in the recent years, because this year it was almost something like 80,000 people, which is extremely huge amount of these people were in Lisbon presenting their projects, demonstrating different things, etc., just as every single year. But this year there are several interesting things that should be taken a look at. Micropayments are back in vogue, for example. So this is the pretty interesting domain area that was under the questions for lots of different years. And some of these years it was fine having the micropayments integrated, some of the other years it was believed that this is some sort of the scam that never should work with ever. This year, the startups at the Web Summit proved that micropayments are back on track, and this is something interesting that we should pay attention to and probably think of implementing in the other projects as well. Serve your audience and the revenue will follow. This is the second idea that most of the startups of the Web Summit and the speakers of the Web Summit were propagating these days. So again, the thinking about the client acquisition and the working with clients is a little bit different for different people. Some of the people say that serving the client is not important, the project itself has to be perfect. The other ones meant to say that the main idea is having the perfect project developed and follow it with the perfect client serving. Anyway, almost all the speakers that were at the Web Summit this year have set the same point that it is pretty important to serve the clients correctly. And as long as you do that, you have a chance to reach your new and higher revenue. And the main idea is still about following your clients. Media trust is losing its values for the Generation Z. First of all, we remember lots of different medias that were aimed specifically at the Generation Z and at these young people who were trying to follow along the market, follow along the business, etc. And lots of different media were aimed specifically at them. But currently we can see that these people start proofing the ideas and the posts they see, and the trust is much lower. So even a couple of years ago, it was enough to post some fake news and got it spread all over the other medias easily. Right now, Generation Z starts proofing the things they read, and they are trying and looking for a little bit more details. And this is another thing that we are trying to get another level of trust, and this will affect all the media materials that will be seen in the next several years. Creator economy has a new relief. So obviously creator economy was something that persists here since maybe 2006 or 2007, since the YouTube first version appeared, but now it gets the new rebirth. Appearance of VR and AR, appearance of the YouTube systems, alternative solutions, etc. All of that brings the ideas that there is a strong need to develop the creators realm a little bit in the other ways and look for alternative solutions and think about alternative decisions, etc. So the main idea here is that creators reality gets a new rebirth, and there's lots of different awesome opportunities to be a part of this process. Finally, as I've already said, events are back in vengeance. Again, having the super long and painful period of COVID was not helpful for the events, and that was a pretty serious problem. But right now, what we can see is that events happen one by one. More and more people start attending them because people just got bored sitting in the isolation. And even though we know that the office and co-working process changed dramatically, and there are lots of remote companies that transformed into that way after the COVID has started, we can see that people still need some live communication, some live speaking, etc. And this is exactly that's happening right now according to the communicational process and the events gathering. So if you have an idea of the event, it seems like a perfect time to start it right now. These were all the news for these 2 weeks, the most interesting ones that I decided to take out for today and discuss with you. My name is Bobby Holland, and keep remembering that I'm always at your side, and I'll see you pretty soon.